Welcome to my presentation on Cape Breton FibreNet, CBFN, broadband service from the municipality of the County of Inverness. I'll start my presentation with a quick discussion on Eastlink Plans. Will they? Won't they? It makes no difference to most of us. Click the link in the top right to watch a longer presentation on this topic. For a graphical example of the issue, I made a map to show the buildings that would be serviced by Eastlink if they do end up going ahead with their plans, which were announced last August and were supposed to be completed by April of 2017. It is great news for the customers in the green. But for everyone here in the red, the news is not so great. The green carves up the red, making sure nobody will ever be able to profitably serve the forgotten households. Why is fiber the answer? Because of Nielsen's law of bandwidth, which states that a high-end user's connection speed grows by 50% per year. The line on the chart shows what the law stated in 1983, with the dots showing the actual real-world results. Notice in 2018, we're getting to about a gigabit. We can use salt as an analogy for internet speed. Think of each grain of salt as a bit. In the 90s, we had dial-up, speeds which were measured in kilobits per second, so a few salt packets per second. In the early 2000s, customers started getting broadband, which was measured in megabits per second, like a box of table salt. This is the speed many of us in rural Inverness are stuck with now. Many municipalities are struggling to bring their residents 5 or even 10 megabits per second, but that just isn't enough anymore. The CRTC just raised its minimum speed for broadband from 5 to 50 megabits per second. Meanwhile, residents in urban areas don't care what the CRTC's minimums are. Their minimum speed is a gigabit per second. That would be like this pallet of salt every second. Fiber to the home is the only technology that can deliver these speeds. Owners of fiber networks are not worried about the time when people start demanding terabit per second speeds, the salt equivalent being one of these 1,000-ton salt storage facilities. The petabit is currently thought to be the limits of a single strand of fiber optic cable. Contrast this to the current technology many of us are served by today. And yes, this is a real mountain of salt, Kali Mountain in Germany. This chart shows my interpretation of Nielsen's law from 2017 to 2057. I started us off at 5 megabits per second. A lot of us here would love to have a 5 megabit per second connection. But if you have had it for a while, you would start to be thinking it was time for an upgrade, so that is where I started. 50% more bandwidth per year from 5 megabits per second takes you to 2030 to get to 1000 megabits per second, or a gigabit per second. The beauty of fiber optic cable is that once we get to 2030 and a gigabit connection just isn't enough anymore, we still don't have to replace the fiber. More wavelengths of light, different switching technology, new lasers, they all exist today, but they are too expensive and not necessary for the time being. The bulk of the cost of providing fiber to the home is getting the fiber in the ground or on the poles. Replacing the equipment at the endpoints is trivial. Why is broadband so important? I probably don't really have to say much here. The CRTC considers broadband an essential service. Ericsson and the University of Technology have done studies that show a household's income rises by about $5,000 per year when faster, more reliable broadband is introduced. The Fibre to the Home Council did a study that showed access to fiber adds 3.1% to the value of a home, or on average $5,000. While no studies exist, word in real estate circles is that not having access to fast, reliable broadband can reduce a home's value by 20%. People are moving away. I am one of those people. I make maps with drones. Computing hardware is a large expense, and the main bottleneck in image processing. Cloud computing would help a lot. I wouldn't need a $10,000 computer to get a huge job done if I had the internet access required to use a few $100s worth of cloud services. Having an office for a project that starts off small is just so expensive, and not being able to work from home would be unfortunate. Broadband is increasingly a necessity for educational, business, career, and social opportunities. Health and government services are increasingly being provided through the internet. Educational, I have a great example of that. I recently took a Certified Fiber to the Home Professional course. Every session ended when my internet service stopped, not when I was done learning. Why do we need a municipally owned solution? Or in other words, why less ambitious plans will fail? While there are very few success stories of small, privately owned internet service providers, there are endless examples of successful, municipally owned networks, as long as they have at least 3,500 customers. I am not proposing a money-losing venture. The economics of natural monopolies dictate that the barriers to entry make it nearly impossible for new businesses to enter the market. Also, unfortunately for the consumers, it is most profitable for the monopolies to never upgrade their infrastructure. Market forces will not fill the void. Just because an area is not profitable to supply with internet service does not mean that it is not economically feasible to do so. Ironically, the largest barrier to entry is the CRTC and the requirement to become an official competitive local exchange carrier, which means no revenue for a year, lawyers, and paperwork. It is also outside the scope of any small community's resources. Startups that have tried to build internet service providers in the past have found that the economies of scale require a minimum size of at least 3,500 customers. And finally, showing the incumbents that we are serious about broadband might just incentivize them to act. Services Cape Breton FibreNet will provide fiber to the home with an option for triple play service. What that means is that every home has one optical fiber running to it, but that one fiber can transmit multiple colors of light. I'm simplifying here, but let's say red would be your internet service, and we would start our service running at 1 gigabit, so you won't be complaining about your speed for about 15 years. Now, if somebody starts a business out of their house and realizes that they need a lot more bandwidth, that won't be a problem. The technology to get 10 gigabits out of a fiber strand exists today. It is just a little more costly for something most people would never use. Blue would be the TV. Just like your regular HD cable TV, there are several different technologies that could be used. The telephone signals would be received via green light. This phone service would be just like a regular landline that everybody would be used to. We could also provide femtocells, which are amazing devices that use a good connection to the internet to create a mini cell phone tower in your house or your neighborhood. 5 steps to a 5-phase fiber utility rollout. It's just one step for the Inverness Council. Hire Dan as the Director of Municipal Broadband Services. Don't worry, there's a link to a Why Dan video at the end of the presentation. As your Director of Municipal Broadband Services, I will start the process of becoming a competitive local exchange carrier, a CLEC. This process will take me approximately 3 months to prepare the application and another 9 months before we could start providing services. This CRTC certification is required in order to begin negotiating interconnection agreements, use power poles to hang fiber, or provide service to consumers. Do all the work and research to get this project off the ground. Immediately begin work on a roadmap as well as literal maps so that everybody in the county can have an idea on when, or if, and how they will receive broadband. After 6 months, a training program should be ready, and I will start hiring people who will become certified Fiber to the Home Professionals, CFHPs, by the time we are ready to build Phase 1. Number 2. Funding plans, deals, partnerships, which are going to lead to plan refinements. There is funding for broadband regularly announced from federal as well as provincial governments. The CRTC has said they will be putting $750 million towards broadband. I will be looking into all of these funding sources and any others. I will lobby every politician and bureaucrat with access to broadband funding. Having said that, outside funding or not, we have to move forward. Speaking of moving forward, it seems to me that once municipalities come to accept that since market forces are not going to bring this essential service to their communities anytime soon, and it is therefore up to them, they get caught in a loop on step 2. They keep having meetings where they plan to plan. They skipped step 1. They don't know where they are going, so they don't know how to get there. They, along with the provincial and federal governments, are caught in analysis paralysis. We have to start step 2 saying, this is where we are going. Everyone else can either lead, follow, or get out of the way. A quick Google search revealed plenty of great ideas for overcoming analysis paralysis. I'll list a few. Decide that the simplest solution is almost always the best solution. This is known as Occam's razor. There is a great Wikipedia entry about it, if anyone is interested. Place a high value on the speed of implementation. This is my number 2 priority, with an economically sound implementation being my number 1 priority. Appreciate any step that moves you forward. And lastly, focus your efforts on 90-day increments. Number 3. The Broadband Department, or CBFN, will plan and build fiber to the town of Inverness as a pilot project. As our certified fiber-to-the-home professionals will not yet have any hands-on experience, and we don't want to spend lots of money on equipment up front, we will hire a contractor to fill those gaps. A large portion of the work can be done by the water department if we choose to bury conduit. Number 4. Buy equipment for the work we don't wish to contract out. Number 5. Plan and build out the next 4 of the 5 phases, making adjustments for what we have learned so far. Let's get to the phases. Phase 1. The town of Inverness. 700 potential customers served by 20 kilometers of fiber optic cable. The cost of the fiber optic cable would probably only be about 20% of the total cost, with the cable installation being about 60% of the total costs. An estimated initial cost of $1 million, which is about $1,500 per customer. Revenue of $840,000 per year, based on an average customer payment of $100 per month. An estimated 2-year payoff. And a completion target of the same day our competitive local exchange carrier status becomes official. If Eastlink goes ahead with their project, which was announced last August and was supposed to be completed last month, then Phase 1 of this project would move to Shettycamp. Phase 2. Shettycamp, Mabou, and Port Hood. A potential of 2,100 customers served with 80 kilometers of fiber, costing $3.9 million, which is about $1,900 per customer. Revenue of $2.5 million a year, with an estimated payoff of 3 years. Phase 3. Route 19. 1,400 customers served by 150 kilometers of fiber. Estimated cost of $6 million, which is $4,400 per customer. Revenue of $1.7 million per year, with an estimated 7-year payoff. Phase 4. All other paved roads. 3,200 customers served by 400 kilometers of fiber. Estimated cost of $16 million, which is $5,000 per customer. Revenue of $3.8 million per year, with an estimated 8-year payoff. Total revenue at this point would be about $8.8 million per year, from a total of 7,800 customers, with a to-date infrastructure spending of $27 million. Phase 5. Dirt roads. Phase 5 will not be done with fiber, though we would provide fiber to anyone willing to pay the added cost of going the distance to their home. We will start Phase 5 during Phase 3, as the required backbone is being built. We will use wireless solutions running at the minimum of the CRTC's current minimum speeds of 50 megabits per second down and 10 megabits per second up. Max cost of approximately $2,500 per customer. Why this plan? So that we will have a good, clear, simple answer about what we're going to do about broadband. This plan is very low risk. It is incremental, so we will have the experience required for when the economics get risky. Every detail of this plan for the next 5 years does not need to be nailed down before we start. We can make changes as we go and learn, 90 days at a time. The situation is getting worse quickly. We have to act now. The people of Inverness County will feel great peace of mind when they know there is a plan in place. We can say, we have a plan, we have a timeline. In a few months, we will be able to look up our address on a map and see when we can expect to have access to the best broadband service in the world. Any questions or comments? Email me at dfaculty@gmail.com or contact me on Facebook. If you think this is a great plan, let me know. If you think this is a terrible plan, let me know why. Or if you just want to rant about your current internet service, email me at dfaculty@gmail.com or contact me on Facebook.